jolly good.
Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clayton Zoka, and welcome to another Live Thoughts On. And today, since it is, I think, the like 20th, 19th, 20th anniversary of Christmas Carol, the movie. And also, just to clarify, once again, just like the Postman Pat movie review, I am not a big fan of films when it comes to their title with "the" in the title. If it's like Beanstalk, the movie, why is it the movie? Is it going to be the one, the only movie? Even if it was called, like, for this, if this was called A Christmas Carol Movie, 2001's A Christmas Carol Movie, that would have been better, although it would be a little bit of a out-of-place reference for 2001 A Space Odyssey. But I'm so sick of films that have the movie in it. As soon as it's got that name in it, you're in trouble, I think. So, okay, anyway, so yeah, I had to get that out of the way quickly. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about one of the more infamously hated Christmas Carol adaptations. And for those who don't know, Christmas Carol is a story created by Charles Dickens. It's a story about a man named Ebenezer Scrooge who learns his ways and his meanness by 3 spiritual ghosts, and then in the end he ends up loving Christmas. It's a very classic story that can be told well. And when I say can, I mean literally can. This is interesting because I've actually never heard of this film before until I've watched a VHS opening, and yes, I do watch them, of Ice Age. And not only that, it actually got me into watching Thunderpants after watching it like a few seconds when it came on television. And then when I saw the trailer for it, I was like, holy shit, this looks really good. I mean, okay, usually I don't show footage of films for copyright reasons, but I will show a little bit just to show you just how grand, big, and epic it is. I mean, have a look at this.
Good evening, Mr.
That's the first part of the trailer. If that gets you excited, this film's doing something right. Hopefully. It looks like it's going to be dramatic, epic, but still have its heart in the right place. The rest of the trailer looks good. It does look rather upbeat, slightly, and a bit cheery, but I was actually really excited. Although, after doing some research, this film was, like I said, it's kind of well known for being hated. People are saying like it's probably one of the weaker adaptations of the book, or the story actually. And the only adaptations I have seen of this story is the Jim Carrey one and the Disney one with Scrooge McDuck, and I think that's when he was first introduced, before DuckTales, I believe. However, kind of like Thunderpants in a way. Thunderpants I did not expect to like, but it turned out to be a pleasantly surprisingly good kids film. And this film came out a year before Thunderpants did. Not only that, but Simon Callow is actually in both films. Coincidence? I think not. All I know is that this film was distributed by PATHÉ in the UK. The animation was done by Illuminated Films, who you may know for Little Princess, and most recently The Rubbish World of Dave Spud on CITV. And the MGM version... Okay, this is something I actually didn't know. If you watch the trailer for the film, you'll see a live-action segment with Simon Callow. Fun fact, he actually plays Charles Dickens, and he voices Ebenezer Scrooge. You'll see him go, I like to entertain you with a story of ghosts and all that. There is actually live-action scenes but it's actually in the UK version. However, the MGM version only has the animation, like the whole animated movie. And apparently, according to some comments on YouTube, you can only view them. Like if you have the film that's not in the, if you have the film like in the US, apparently the live action scenes are in the special features or something, which I don't understand why, because it's Charles Dickens telling the story of a well-known tale, no pun intended, by the way. So it's really strange. Like the things I've heard about the film is really fascinating. On one hand, I'm a little worried because it from the trailers it really doesn't look that bad. It looks pretty awesome. On the other hand, I've heard there's like mice in it, and I'm like, if there's comic reliefs in the film, then it's a bad sign. Sometimes a good sign, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go in with open arms. I did download the MGM version, but since sex is still a thing in the UK, and for those who don't know, sex, yes, that's how they named it, or exchange is actually it's a shop where you can buy like DVDs cheaper, some that people sell, you know. And I actually found this like a while ago. I found this DVD, and as soon as I saw it, I picked it up. It was only £1, and yeah. So what is the film about? Well, you know the drill. You know how the story of A Christmas Carol goes. It starts off with not Scrooge, Charles Dickens, played by Simon Callow, going to a Boston theatre to tell his story of A Christmas Carol. However, it's slightly different, to my knowledge anyways. In this story, Ebenezer Scrooge, who's also played by Simon Callow, or in this case, voiced, he's actually younger, he's not old. There's also a subplot with Belle, voiced by Kate Winslet, who used to be with Scrooge, where she actually where she looks after kids as a nurse, and then some people have to be taken away because they didn't pay their debts because of Scrooge, and they've been taken to a prison. And one of the kids, named Tiny Tim, that Scrooge accidentally, well, not accidentally, but rather by force, splashed water onto, is now ill. And Belle has to reach out to Ebenezer Scrooge in order for him to pay and help the children. However, as we know, Scrooge hates Christmas, you know. Gah, humbug. Although in this film he just says humbug. Why didn't he say bar humbug, not humbug? Okay, we'll get to the changes in a minute. Anyways, you know the drill. He goes home, and after his client, or I think his cousin named Bob, was it Bob Cratchit or Clatchit? He's voiced by Reese Arax, I think. Is that how you pronounce his name? Oh, iFans, yeah, Bob Cratchit, yeah. And after declining another invite to go to a Christmas dinner with him, he goes home, and then he's been confronted by the ghost of his former partner, Jacob Marley, voiced by a very, very out of nowhere choice, Nicolas Cage. I'm not joking. The Nicolas Cage we know, Wicker Man, Spider-Verse, freaking The Croods, that Nicolas Cage. He comes to confront him to say that there'll be 3 ghosts. The ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas future, the ghost of, and then there's what? No, the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas future, who I believe is voiced by Michael Gambon from Harry Potter. The third one I forgot the name of, but he's going to be confronted by all 3 of them so they can mend his ways of his wrongdoings, and to make him realise what he's done wrong and love Christmas, while at the same time Belle has to find a way to get to Scrooge, and she sends him a letter. so Scrooge can help him save the children and all that. Oh, and there's mice in it too. Can you see why this is a bit loosely connected? Now, I was kind of ready to give this film the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, okay, slight changes are a thing in adaptations, but with Christmas Carol, it's like there are so many adaptations. A lot of them just do the same, but that's the point. What else can you do to the Christmas Carol story? In this case, the changes, like I said, Scrooge is actually like obviously we get to see when he's younger, but when he actually goes back to the past, you think he'll be an old man, but he's actually like what, in his 40s, 50s or something. He's not very old. You can see his hair is not grey or anything like that. The mice are in it too. I do not remember the subplot of saving the children at all. I'm not a person who knows that much about Christmas Carol except the core story. So if I'm wrong, let me know. But there are slight changes, and if you're a die-hard Christmas Carol fan, you're either going to be fine with the changes or not. Personally, for me, I actually didn't mind those changes. Granted, the mice could have been cut out because they barely do anything except try and be cutesy. And the subplot of Belle trying to reach out to Scrooge because she needs him could have been a little bit more explored. And the problem that this film 100% doesn't quite do is reach out its full potential. Same with Thunderpants. This film could have been 20 or maybe 10 minutes longer. I mean, I appreciate films that don't go on for too long, but I feel like more could have been explored or explained. Like when Scrooge actually realizes that he knows the areas of his ways and he's happy now, it's like at the hour mark. This film is an hour and 17 minutes, so it's really not that long. Like I said, it could have been 20 minutes longer, and it could have made it. It could have gave the film a little bit more of a punch, I'll be honest. The opening to the film, actually, the live action scenes are legit really good. However, they're only like, what, 2-3 minutes long? They only appear at the beginning and end of the film. It's where we see Charles Dickens go into this theatre to tell the audience his story. However, he changes it after a mice enters the theatre, which is a bit odd because what does mice have to do with A Christmas Carol, you know? And I'll give the film this. At least it gets the heart of the Christmas Carol story right. Granted, the tone it gets is rather bizarrely dark. And again, I don't mind when kids' films get dark, and Christmas Carol is no exception. But here it's like kinda, it just throws you in, and it doesn't give you time to know who they are. They expect you to know who all of them are, and if you don't know Christmas Carol too well, I mean, I know Christmas Carol okay, but if you don't know it too well, you're going to be left confused. There's a character who's going around just bringing people to the prison who haven't paid their debts at all. I think his name's like Joe Buggs, Old Joe, and I think he's probably the closest to being a villain here. I'm not sure if he was a character in the story. I am going to say he probably isn't. I could be wrong. So it's kind of all over the place, and the tone is very cheery, but it's like, I mean, yeah, it's delightful and it does make it more pleasant to watch, but at the same time, it's like, it feels like a run-of-the-mill family kids film. The tone is very cheery. There are kids there. There's the bloody mice. It all feels too familiar with a story that we all know. Again, it gets the heart right, and the humour, while it's nothing like Pixar or DreamWorks, it's very light, it's very slow, it's very calm, and to be honest, it doesn't feel like pop culture. The humour actually fits with the story and themes of A Christmas Carol. granted, I won't say Christmas Carol is a comedy thing, but it's very light-hearted and just very warm. It's just like a little chuckly laugh. Nothing like laugh out loud, really. It does kind of get the job, and it does. I'll give it that it's a short film that just goes by so quickly. It's like, at least it doesn't overstay its welcome too much. I'll give the film that. So yeah. I forgot to mention, this film is actually directed by the same person who directed The Snowman. His name is Jimmy T. Murakami, and sadly he passed away. I think he passed away in 2014. Yeah, he died at the age of 80, which is a shame, really, because I think the guy, I don't know, I think he has good talent. He also did When the Wind Blows, which is a ridiculously sad film. Let me tell you, that's a really, really, oh God, never watch that. It's very depressing. He did the Bear, which I quite enjoy. So the guy, it makes sense for him to. It does make sense for him to do this, to do A Christmas Carol, because people who loved his film version of The Snowman, or at least Raymond Briggs' The Snowman, who also did The Bear, and he directed that too, people will probably like A Christmas Carol, right? Maybe. So he did direct the film pretty well, and I'll give him that, and, R.I.P. to him. He did good, I think. The story definitely has right ideas. For the most part, it does execute it in a rather simple, calm, even at times kind of effective way. At least it doesn't go on for too long, and the humour is quite light, and you can easily get into it. However, the first opening, when we see the main character Scrooge going back to his office, to his work area, it goes by a little too fast, and it just throws you into a lot of situations without explanation or world building. Because Jimmy is expecting you to know the story, and even if you don't, you're going to be lost. So it has good heart, it has decent comedy that's more light-hearted than just clever jokes. I'll give the film this: the dark tones do fit. The emotional weight works, and it does feel earned, despite the slight changes. It does work. If they changed more of it, then it could possibly damage the film, I think. But at least it was well presented in a way that felt unique. The live action scenes, I think, are the only things that does make this stand out. If there was more scenes of the live action stuff, and if it was maybe 20 minutes longer, this could have been a really good adaptation. But as for the story, it's good. It didn't do much to stand out, but it did just enough just to be a pretty nicely told story of a well-known classic. Animation. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. Okay? The animation on the humans is not bad, but it's not exactly Don Bluth for Disney. And I get it, it's like, this is from the early 2000s, this was like 2001, this was when CGI animated films were becoming huge and huge, thanks to films like Shrek, you got the DreamWorks stuff like Ants, you got Pixar, Toy Story, Bugs Life, and then Monsters Inc. So 2D was kind of dying down a little bit, with a good example, Treasure Planet and Home on the Range, but Christmas Carol was one I was particularly interested in. The animation for the film, altogether, is passable at best. My favourite part of this entire animation section is the backgrounds. It's really, really gorgeous. You can tell it looks like a painting. It looks like it has a style, and the scene where Scrooge is with the Ghost of Christmas Future, I think. I don't really know the Christmas Carol too well, but point is, there are really, really like standout moments in A Christmas Carol. There are so many beautiful scenes that actually do remind me of the Snowman a little, actually, because it has that very slow but very soft color scheme to it. No, I was wrong. Ghost of Fuck. So Ghost of Christmas Past was one. Ghost of Christmas Future is the death. Oh no. Okay, sorry. Again, I do not know my Christmas Carol knowledge that well. So the Ghost of Christmas Present, when he took Scrooge through to show him what Bob Crackit was doing and all these other, and what he was showing him before and using the horn and everything. At times the film can look visually stunning, like it has an identity and a look that stands out. However, despite the gorgeous background and animation and pretty nice lighting and snow too, the character animation at times does look good. It does look like it's professionally well made. It does have a nice look to it. It does kind of fit, but at the same time, sometimes their expressions can look a bit off. Sometimes they won't look like... At times they don't even look like the characters that they are. Sometimes it does kind of remind me, and I'm sad to say this, of the Titanic Legend Goes On film. You know, that infamously bad animated Titanic film. The animation in this film does remind me a little bit of that. Except in this film it's actually well handled to the point that it's not badly made. You know, the designs of the characters. Scrooge looks pretty good. You know, Belle looks nice, and the ghost of Jacob Marley is actually really, really good. And the scene where he confronts Scrooge, and when he's actually at Scrooge's door, those are like the only real standout moments in the film visually, along with the good backgrounds. The mice actually have some pretty good designs too. Actually, here's an idea for a Christmas Carol film. I know this has been done, but I think this could have been better. What if A Christmas Carol was from the perspective of those two mice? Forget about Scrooge's story, forget about Belle. What if it was from the perspective of these two mice? How great would that be? Granted, there wouldn't be a point, but you could have really done something with the animation here. You could have presented something bigger and grand and nice. I mean, yes, it's a very nice looking film, and the animation at times can be very impressive, and the character designs were a little flawed and sometimes a little too clunky. It's not too bad. Some of the characters look off a little, and when you look at the images from MGN, it looks like it's from a computer game. When I watched it on DVD, it did look like a very cinematic version of Christmas Carol. It didn't feel like a Christmas film with bright colours. It felt like a really down, grey, and even just soulless animation look. But soulless in the way how Scrooge is, in a way, if you will. The live action stuff is great. I love what they did with Scrooge's costumes. I love the way it looks. It has a uniqueness to it that works. In fact, if that's the thing is, this film is presenting lots of good ideas, but sometimes they don't quite work together. What if the live action stuff was, its own thing, or the stuff with the mice is different? This could work. But just because two things are good doesn't mean they're going to not exactly work well together. Look, I know, okay, this is not great 2D animation, but at least it did offer us something that's at least visually pleasing, and the live action stuff is just spectacular. So overall, despite some very off-putting facial expressions, the animation is beautiful. It has great character designs. The mouse look really good. It is, to be fair, probably one of the nicer looking Christmas Carol films out there. It's better looking than fucking Robert Zemeckis' Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey, to be fair. Characters and acting. Now, I'm sure we all know the characters from A Christmas Carol quite well. You've got Simon Callow, who is Scrooge, Kate Winslet as Nurse Belle. Scrooge is pretty much exactly who you would expect. The character who does not like Christmas. And actually, I've only just watched the film just recently, and I actually don't remember his reason, actually. It could be because he just cares more about business than about his personal life, maybe. Which is kind of why he's a bit of a Grinch, and I kind of see why the Grinch is inspired by him. But the character himself, he's fine. He's nothing new, but he does play the Scrooge part quite well as being grouchy, demented, stubborn, annoyed. Just kind of a perfectly good Scrooge. Not amazing, but just good. Belle, who I do not remember from the books, I think, isn't she like an exclusive character or anything? She's not that well defined, really, except she had a previous relationship with Scrooge, and her chemistry with Scrooge, although very minor, is pretty good when we see flashbacks with young Scrooge and young Belle. It's really well done, and the ending does make it feel rather earned, even though their chemistry is rather rushed and we don't really see much of what they do except go their separate ways, fall in love, and, well, I'll let you figure out the rest. Nicolas Cage, he is the ghost of Jacob Marley, and he's just kind of there just to give Scrooge a warning, because he's going to be visited by 3 ghosts. And I love his design. He is legit creepy, which is really good. You've got Bob Crackit, who's the nice-hearted assistant and I think cousin of Scrooge. Wait, is it the cousin or something? Oh, God. I don't know why I've forgotten that already, but I'm pretty sure he's the cousin of Scrooge. Anyways, he's a good character in the film. He does show to be very, very happy. He's more of a optimistic, and Scrooge obviously is a pessimistic. However, his hate of Christmas doesn't really affect him that much. He's aware that Scrooge does not like Christmas, and he doesn't let it get to him. And he has invited him to his Christmas dinner a few times, and he declined. And what they do with him is not much, but it does feel earned. The rest of the characters, like Old Joe and Fred, Fezziwig, Dr. Lambert, Mr. Leach, they're all minor recurring characters here, and they only appear just to provide something to the story, even if it's not much. Old Joe, who's probably, I think he's the main villain, even though he's not in the film for really that long. He doesn't really stand out as a villain. He just stands out as a very ha-ha-y villain who just wants to get his penny's worth. And also, some of the characters are a bit unlikable. They laugh at some of these characters, which makes them really down and sad. So the tone is kind of mixed, but then you got that makes it rather mean-spirited. However, whatever you think of these characters, the voice acting is really good, and ignoring the fact that Kate Winslet and Nicolas Cage is in it, everyone does a great job. Simon Callow, he knocks out the park as both Charles Dickens and Ebenezer Scrooge. you can really tell that he gets into the performance and the voice work really well, and I think he has studied Charles Dickens. I think he has played him in Doctor Who. I could be wrong on that, but he's legit great. And I've seen him in Thunderpants as the opera singer Sir John Osgood. He's a good actor. He really knows how to play his part well. Kate Winslet, if you know what Kate Winslet sounds like, then you'll know that it will be her coming out of Belle's mouth. She's really good. Not as good as Rita in Flushed Away, I'll be honest, but her voice work is very gentle, very smooth, very calm, and you can tell she was having fun with it. Nicolas Cage, who is good in the film, he's a very weird choice. You could have gone with Jude Law or someone like who's British. I don't know why Jimmy went with Nicolas Cage. Again, weird choice, but he's actually not that bad. You can hear a little bit of his American accent, but at the same time it does sound slightly different. James Horrocks plays the ghost of voices the ghost of Christmas Past. She's really good. She has a very soft voice too. Michael Gambon, who's Dumbledore from Harry Potter 3 onwards. No, Harry Potter to the Half-Blood Prince. He voices Ghost of Christmas Present, who's very joy, very lovely. His voice is legit good, and he sounds like he fits the role well. Actually, the animation for the Ghost of Christmas Present actually has the best character animation and character design. Seriously, I know I forgot to mention that, but I just realised how good he looks out of everyone in the film. Rhys Ifans is Bob Crackett, and I think he does fit the voice well as rather cockney, but rather soft and kind. And everyone else does good. For the live action stuff, Simon Callow does a great job as Charles Dickens. There's the theatre owner, who's also really good. Genuinely, the characters are a little mixed. Some are actually not too bad, and they're well handled, like Scrooge. Jacob Marley was not badly handled. Tiny Tim was pretty good too. Belle was alright. The rest can be either pointless, like the mice. The mice, who I actually didn't mind that much. I mean, they were cute, but they didn't have much of a point except for keeping the kids awake, I suppose. And old Joe is a bit of a pointless villain who's not that interesting, but thanks to some really solid voice acting, even with a really out of nowhere, pretty odd choice for an American actor to play a British partner to Ebenezer Scrooge. The characters are more well defined, like maybe like 50%, and the rest is just like whatever the film can come up with. The characters are good, but they're not exactly Christmas Carol good, despite the really solid voice acting. And let's address the other elephant in the room. Kate Winslet can actually sing. I know, I couldn't believe it either. And people will know her for like freaking Titanic. And I know she didn't sing the song for that, but I'm pretty sure this is like the one thing that everyone else knows her for. She actually sang a song, and in typical generic film fashion, where pretty much a lot of films have an emotional or upbeat song with them to sell a soundtrack. Kate Winslet did one called What If? And if you haven't heard of the song, I do recommend you listen to it. There are two versions. There's the full version, which is really good. There's the short version in the film, which is also really good. And the song's beautiful, meaningful. It's way better than frickin' Merry Christmas, everyone. It's 100% better than All I Want for Christmas Is You. It's better than most Christmas songs. I'll give it that, because a lot of them are so overrated and overplayed. Why is this one not getting much attention? It's so good. Never thought I'd say this, but that wasn't too bad. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by it. Christmas Carol the movie is not exactly a perfect adaptation of the book or the story in that case, but it's pretty decent, and I'd probably say it's actually better than the 2009 Robert Zemeckis film and probably the Disney version. You heard me. I'm not a big fan of A Christmas Carol. I do like the story of it, but the films and adaptations are not exactly for me. I know people are indifferent, but this was a pretty good adaptation. Yeah, it has weak points like a rather confused and rushed tone, the animation looking a bit clunky and a bit inconsistently cheap and dull with expressions and lack of substance. Some of the characters can be a little pointless and unneeded, along with a really strange Nicolas Cage. Besides that, the music by Julian Knott, who you'll know for the Wallace and Gromit music, is really good, and the song "What If" by Kate Winslet, well, sung by Kate Winslet, is really good. The animation is actually beautiful if you ignore the flaws, and the story is pretty well told for the most part. And the mice could have been well defined. They could have actually had more of a purpose than just to tell Scrooge to look at the letter or something. If there were two separate films, one with the unique and great live action stuff, and one about the mice, telling the story of A Christmas Carol from their point of view, from their perspective, I think there's something there, but it's just the two great ideas mixed together make one pretty passable, almost close to good film. The rating I would give the film is, what should I give it? Because I actually didn't think it wasn't that bad. I don't know what everyone else is complaining about. Granted, yeah, the changes do affect the story of the film quite drastically, but it's done emotionally, and the dramatic parts are really well done. Um, is it better than Thunderpants? Not by much. I'd say it's like close. I'll give it a 6.8 out of 10. It's not good. I will put it that way. It's not exactly a pretty good film. It's a passable enough film. If people do not like this film and hate it, I can see why. If people like it as a classic, I can see why. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend you check it out and let the kids watch it too. Fun fact: this was actually produced by Film 4 and Film Council UK. Who knew? So yeah, it is hard to find a copy of this film. The best way I can tell you to find it in the UK, if you have a exchange shop nearby, check there. You can buy it from Amazon. For everyone else in different countries, Amazon or just whatever shops you have, I recommend it. It's not a great film, but I'm glad I've watched it. So yeah, Christmas Carol the movie. Who would have thought it? So yeah, yeah. I don't know what I'll do next. There are a couple of Christmas films I do need to review at the moment. Like, what should I do? Elf. I'll do that. I might try and do Scrooged as well, maybe, with the one with Bill Murray. Elf, I will definitely do. Scrooge, maybe. I'm trying to think what else. I'll think of more, but yeah. So look out for Elf, and again, I might do Scrooge if I have time. And yeah, if you like A Christmas Carol, if you like Christmas Carol the movie, if you've seen it, what do you think about it? Is it good, bad, decent? Do you want to see it? Let me know below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Oh, and Merry Christmas too. I know it's not exactly Christmas time yet. I mean, we're in December, right? So, yeah. Until next time, bah humbug!